cloud. And we're going live broadcast. Okay, I think we're live.
I think we are live.
I'm gonna give some people probably a few minutes to jump in here. Oh, I see at the bottom, there's people are logging on slowly but surely here. Oh man, how you doing over there in quarantine? You hanging in there?
Yeah, I'm hanging in here. I mean, got my shipment from Amazon recently, so have a lot of food around the house. I have some good roommates. We're all staying here together, so
Yeah.
a lot of movie nights, a lot of game nights. So
yeah, thank God for Amazon right now, right?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Hi everybody, thanks for joining. We're gonna give everybody about 1 or 2 more minutes to get online, and then we'll start this off.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's see. I'm going to open the chat function too. So you folks that are online right now, if you have questions kind of throughout the call, feel free to jump things in the chat. I'll do my best to integrate things if it seems appropriate, but we'll make sure that we leave some time at the end to go through some questions kind of one-on-one too.
Hope everybody is doing well out there. Just want to thank everybody that is following the rules where they are, whether that be stay at home or their interaction with others. You're saving lives. It's great. We're in quarantine here in Chicago, so.
Yeah, citywide shelter in place, locked down.
Alrighty, I think we're about ready. We can get started.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. If you don't know me already, my name's Meg Murphy. I'm the founder of Chicago Superstars. It's a little side project that I started when I got laid off over the holidays, just before Kevin got laid off. And we are a Chicago-based talent community and database for folks that have either been affected by layoffs or are generally looking to make a move. I'm also job searching myself right now. This is a side project that I'm kind of putting together and testing out and having some fun with, but definitely on the hunt myself. I was so excited to see that Kevin got hired, mostly because, I mean, it's a tough time to get laid off over the holidays, right? But it's also been kind of an extra hard time to be unemployed with all this new craziness going on. And personally, I've seen a few companies that I've been talking to have implemented hiring freezes. A few others have unfortunately had some layoffs. So seeing a lot more applications coming into Chicago Superstars and a few more companies, even ones that I haven't talked to, just sort of through the grapevine that we're hearing about. But it was such a breath of fresh air to chat with you, Kevin, and to see that you got hired. Not only that you just got hired, but that you got hired in an events role, which in a time when like literally everything is canceled, felt like kind of an impossible thing to pull off. So first of all, like, congratulations. I'm stoked for you. I know you've mentioned that like 1 million people are reaching out to you.
Super excited.
Yeah, for context too, everybody, Kevin and I worked together at G2. We didn't spend very much time together because Kevin was constantly on the road. You were our head of global events there, had kind of started early days at G2, and you really built a reputation as one of the leading voices in B2B tech events on a world-class demand generation team. I was always so impressed by the work that you were doing, but I think especially now, like, you are really at kind of the forefront of the events world. I know a lot of people are wondering not only how you pulled off the job search, but also how you're planning on adapting your event strategy now. So I can't wait to jump in. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kevin Benson. I am most recently at G2. I was running the global events program there. We were doing 140 trade shows and conferences last year. And now I moved over to Own Backup, where I'm the new director of events under Steve Malone, who is a genius demand generation marketer. And I'm really excited to work with their team and get everything started. We have seen kind of a pause on all of the events that we've been doing. So I'm moving over to digital, and I have some other ideas of what you can do right now. And then first of all, I want to thank everybody that has joined, and also everybody that's following the rules. Staying at home, limiting interaction with others, you're saving lives. Second, quarantine is hard, and isolation is hard. So please look out for your loved ones, your family, your coworkers, anybody with underlying mental health issues. Just send that text, that FaceTime, anything to make sure that they know that you're there. And finally, it's a weird time. Things are scary. It's important to stay together. This is unprecedented, so take what you can that you have under your control and run with it. So yeah, thanks, Meg.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I wanted to start with a little bit more context kind of on your job search. So we got laid off at about the same time, I think within a week or two apart over the holidays. Can you talk me through sort of your timeline of kind of going through the process of like just processing the layoff, and then sort of what that timeline has looked like in terms of getting applications out, getting interviews in the door, and kind of leading up to where you are today? Can you tell me that story?
Yeah, as Meg said, G2 had some layoffs in mid-December, December 12th, I believe. And it was kind of a hard time to be laid off because you're coming right into the holidays, and people were not hiring right in that couple week period. So we didn't have the opportunity to really send out our resumes and get things started until Jan 1. But once I did get started, I got my LinkedIn Premium on. I set up alerts through LinkedIn, so I started getting a lot of different opportunities coming into my inbox. And that's when I really started seeing a pickup in my interview process. I was applying for about 3 to 5 jobs a week. At the end there, I was actually interviewing for 6 jobs in the final interview stage. What was really important is make sure you have a lot of brands in the fire. Apply for as many jobs as possible, and always apply, for jobs that you might feel uncomfortable with, but that you have the skills for. Apply for jobs that have the titles you want, but then also look around where you can. So let's say you're an events marketer. Also look at field marketing. Also look for demand gen. These are other areas that you can look at and set up alerts to your inbox to get through on a daily basis. So as I was in the finals, I ended up joining Own Backup, as I said. It's because of the leader, Steve Malone, that I really joined the company. It's also seeing tremendous growth, and I also visited them, and they had really good culture. Plus, they also do about 90 plus events a year, which is something that I really enjoy.
Right up your alley.
That big load of events and the large event structure that has the global reach. So right now, I had just gotten hired. That happened last Friday, so it was super, super recent. So yeah, that's where I am right now.
That's super awesome. And then, so it took about, what you said, like end of December or middle of December that you got laid off to about now. So like about 3.5 months.
It took about 3 months to get through the interview processes. As I saw COVID come into place, some of the interviews kind of slowed down, but I didn't have any canceled interviews. Everything just moved into Zoom loops and Zoom meetings, which is a different interview style than I was seeing, because it was more around what I would call like a star format. So you really needed to know
when you say star
how
format,
to answer questions. So you set up star format is setting up the situation, the tasks, and then the results that you have from anything that you're doing. So you need to make sure that you can outline those in a very succinct way, because an interview over the phone is a little bit different than a face-to-face interview, I found.
Okay. Other than you have this framework of the STAR framework, which I love, for ways that you're able to kind of get information across. Was there anything else that you noticed that sort of these virtual interviews kind of like threw people off, or ways that you've kind of navigated that throughout the process?
I mean, I navigated it in the way that you now have to rely on Zoom. So make sure you have steady internet, and make sure that you're in the right location at the right time. The other way that I saw a lot of my interviews change is I had to be prescriptive. I was coming into interviews for event marketing roles when events were being canceled. So these companies didn't want to know how I could run an event for them. They wanted to know what I was going to do for them to impact their revenue. And so this, is something that I had to really think about. I had to think about the skills I had. Event marketers have a lot of skills. I mean, we do project management, we do list segmentations, we have to have a lot of public facing knowledge, things like that. And so I had to change up from this is what I've done to this is what I'm going to do for you. And the way that I did that is I presented myself as a demand gen marketer, so I could work with your demand generation team, especially when it came to the enterprise. And that's where I would say that I focused the most is on the enterprise ways that I could help you with your current clients. So
Okay.
I interviewed for the enterprise on one role, and that was the own backup role. And then another way that I also changed up my interview was I told them that I could do webinars. Now, webinars are very similar to online events. Webinars are very similar to in-person events. So you have kind of the same structure that you would for an in-person event, where you have to set up the event. You have the same landing pages, you have the same email outreach, you have the same thought leaders that you have to work with. So it's very, very similar. So if you're an event specialist, you already have those skills you need to go online.
I think that's such great advice too, especially right now. I think that's good advice, especially right now, but also kind of in general. When we were on the call before, you mentioned how sort of our prep call, we were talking about how in a lot of interviews, you talk about sort of past experience,
right?
Versus I think it's a totally different conversation when you come to the table in an interview process and talk about what's going to happen in the future, right? Like what creative ideas can I bring to the table that are really unique? And it also puts you in a completely different tier versus a lot of other people in the process who might be really focused on kind of what have they done? What can I replicate versus especially now, these are totally unprecedented times. How can we kind of pivot our strategies and think a little bit differently here? So I'd love to dive into, and I have a bunch of other questions kind of about the interview process for you, but I'd love to dive in. Did you notice, because we've got a few people I know that are currently in the job process, and then we have a few people that are current events marketers and thinking about kind of pivoting not only their hiring strategies, but their events strategies going forward. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you saw your interviewers change their tactics? So you talked a little bit about how you were a bit prescriptive. Did you see anything from the interviewer side? And did you see anything like worked particularly well?
Well, what the interviewers were asking me were, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
The questions weren't,
So
what have you done? The question was, what are you going to do for us? And so that was really a big change up where I now had to put together marketing plans and, the structure for what I could see being a successful future as an event marketer. I also saw this as a really big opportunity for event marketers. I mean, you just lost your regular events and now is the time to get creative. You can come out on the other side of this as a leader with more arrows in your quiver, with a lot more ideas than you had before. You've been given the opportunity to get creative and take risks. And so that is where I saw a lot of the success when I was interviewing was, here's how I can change up what I'm doing. Here's how I can help you change what you're doing right now. And then these are the things that we're going to do to be successful. When I want to talk about some of the things that I think will be successful, which I'll move on to,
please.
is of course webinars and online events. So as I said before, as an event marketer, you have a lot of the same structure that you need to run an online event as you do an offline event. It's just you need to be working with your digital team a lot more, and you need to make sure those leads are going into the funnel a lot quicker. This is because these people are being inundated with a lot of online events right now, so you need to get creative and make sure that you're working really quickly through this. Another thing where I'm seeing a lot of success with is LinkedIn Live. People have changed their online habits already, where they're just dropping in and out to pick up content that they want. Somebody that I'm seeing do this really, really well is Segman Vajre from Terminus. He's doing LinkedIn Live events on a daily basis, and what he does is he sets it up as a LinkedIn event. If you haven't seen that yet, it's kind of it's something that you can do similar to a Facebook event. Then he has his LinkedIn Live that goes live, every 2 or 3 days. I don't know what he's doing right now, but he's had like 1,200 to 2,000 signups for each one of these. So LinkedIn Live is going to be a huge factor in how you can reach out to your audience too. The next thing is,
if I can jump in there, Kevin, one thing I noticed about Sangram's LinkedIn Live, but like even our conversation before, we talked a little bit about that example specifically, but also in our case, like you and I were kind of going back and forth about like oh man, like because we threw this together like within 3 days, right?
Right.
We were a little bit worried about, are we making sure that we're hitting all the right points, right? Like,
Hmm.
how close to perfect can we get? And I think that actually works against us, right?
Right.
Something I really love about the way that Sangram set this up is it feels really organic and really
Yes.
natural. And I think not only does that do him a giant service in that people identify with him and it builds
Yeah.
his personal brand, but it
Yeah.
feels like really real and human, and we're allowed to kind of be imperfect in those situations, and it kind of feels
Right.
off the cuff. But I think audiences are relating to that a lot more, right? Like if you and I
Yeah.
were to just like go through our bullet points and like, and then here's the next point that I want to talk about, I think not only does it like slow down our ability to like have a real conversation, but it also alienates the people that might be signing on here, right?
Right.
So I think
Right.
that's a big takeaway for people.
Yeah, I agree. You know, as online habits have changed, people are just dropping in and out, and they want content to
Hmm.
fill up their day. They're
Yeah.
online at all hours now instead of being in these, face-to-face meetings. So they want this content, and it's a big opportunity there. So I'll move on from that. Some of the other things that I also am seeing that are going to be successful, and you have to remember that this might be over in 3 months, but your marketing funnel and those events that you're setting up or those things you're setting up have to be set up now to be successful.
Mm.
In the coming months. So what I am really investing in, what I think is going to be really powerful, is these field marketing events, these smaller dinners, and some of these parties that people are setting up. So these are going to be really important
On
as
like a
the
smaller
city,
scale, you
at a
mean?
smaller scale. When the cities
Yeah.
start opening up again, you can start having groups of 25 together or something like that. It's going to be really important that you have a field marketing strategy. So if you're looking for a role right now, look for a field marketing role. I mean, this is something that's going to be really, really, really big in the next coming days. Another thing that I'm going to see that I think is going to be really successful is these direct mails. Okay, so
Mm.
when people are going to start going back to the office, we don't know how long that might be, but it's going to be in the next 6 to 12 weeks. These direct mails are going to be really important for you to reach out to your audience because people have been just slammed with email and email and email and email. So you need to change up the way that you're communicating with them. A couple of creative things are sending pinatagrams to people. I've thought of this.
Whoa.
Yeah, I thought of this as a way of, like, if I want to do a tequila tasting or a Mexican style dinner, you can send them a pinata with an invite to that. So this is
I
something else
love
that I've
that.
seen. You also
The
have
other
to
thing.
look at your account-based marketing, especially
Mm.
things like Drift and Engagio. People are online now, and you want to track them as they're going from place to place. It's going to be really important that you know what they're doing, the actions that they're taking, and make yourself available to speak with them. So Drift is, as you know, an online bot, and then Engagio tracks people as they interact with your content, kind of, and interact with your site. So you know what actions they're taking. So account-based marketing is going to be a really big thing too.
Got
And
it. If I can stop you for a minute,
yeah.
because we've just like rolled through a few ideas. So if I can just echo this back to you, you talked about in-person events that like feel a bit more intimate, and getting a little bit creative with those. One thing I'd love to dive in a little bit more on
Hmm.
each of these topics. You talked about dinners, you talked about direct mail, and we talked about ABM campaigns and kind of that attribution throughout the journey.
Yep.
One thing I was so impressed with by you and your entire team at G2, just like seeing you guys in action, was the way that you were really able to get creative, right? Because like direct
Hmm.
mail that's not a new thing, right?
No.
And same thing with like ABM, same thing with these client dinners, right? Like how stereotypical is it like to
Yeah.
invite out some executives to a steak dinner,
Yes.
right? I would love it if you could tell me a little bit, like, let's start with like one intimate event. You mentioned the pinatagrams, but if you have other like weird direct mail ideas, like, oh my God, spill the beans. And three, you mentioned some tools that have been really effective on that kind of like attribution and
Yeah.
ABM strategy. But if you could like dive a little bit deeper there, I just want to take a
Okay.
moment because I think that's something, these are ideas that like feel a little bit old school to like some of
Yeah.
these people listening, but there's a way to do it in a way that's really creative and really exciting. Can you talk
Yeah.
a little bit about that?
So the dinners are just standard dinners, but you need to be creative the way that you're inviting people. People are going to get a lot of
Okay.
invitations. These pinatagrams are something that you can do. And the other thing is you need to do creative events. So We had all of our sports games canceled. I am used to having a box somewhere. So you need to figure
Hmm.
out what to do from there. I mean, a Napa Valley wine run or something like that is something that could be creative and different than what you normally do. I've also heard of people going and doing, indoor skydiving. Um, you know,
Mm.
so these are some great things that you can do.
Like
Um,
stuff that you might want to do on like a bachelor or bachelorette
right.
party versus
Yes.
like with your stodgy colleagues.
Yeah, people want to
Cool.
get out and do things. They've been cooped up for so long that you need to, figure out some creative ways and some fun ways for them to get out there.
People
Um,
are going to be so excited to
yeah,
party when this is all
right,
over. That's so
right.
awesome.
When it comes to those account-based marketing tools, I just want to dive in with Drift. Drift is an amazing tool. So what
Hmm.
this does is when you have people interacting with you online, you can um, put up a conversational marketing is what it is. And it's a bot
The
that
chat
just will
bot.
speak.
Yeah.
It's a chat bot that will speak with other people. So as they move online, you want to be able to interact with them online a lot more in a very free flowing way. And so
Yeah.
that's going to be really effective too. Um,
So when you talk about this, because I've used Drift at past companies as well,
mhm,
and the interesting thing to me is kind of that there's like two sides to Drift, right? Um, there's the kind of the bot side, right, where
mhm,
you have to really, there's some thought that needs to go into like what's the flow, how do we get people interacting in the right way, right, and
right,
what's the kind of automated language. But then there's also that line that switches over to when do we get a BDR or an AE
right.
on the line, right,
Yeah,
and how do we build that process to be super seamless.
yeah,
In your opinion, where's like number one, what's the best strategy to like think through the lines? At G2 we happen to
yeah,
have some great resources,
yeah,
but and I'd love to for you to give a shout out to that person.
yeah.
But also, where's that line for, in your opinion, between when you need a human and when it needs to be automated?
So I would say that the automated systems can go live on your main pages.
Yeah.
And then when you have a live human is when you have these customized pages that you might be working through. So what I used to do at G2 is I would put these bots on my event landing pages. And so people get
Yes.
to interact with me when they're going to be going to an event or something like that. And then I could also set up meetings like that too. So
Mm,
you can have this live interaction with people on these customized landing pages that have direct CTAs so they know that they're talking to you directly. You don't have to have that set up as a bot function. So
mhm.
it's these custom landing pages that you can use that on. So yeah, that's some of the ways that you can do that.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, but
That's such a good idea. And thinking about the full experience from the landing page,
yeah,
from that like initial invitation.
yeah. So I kind of want to move on to just where I think things are right now. I just want to
Please.
let you guys know that I have alerts set up, and I'm still seeing on a daily basis event roles being opened up at different companies. Some companies that I would really look out for: AWS, Convoy, and there's a couple others in the Chicago area that I've just seen these alerts set up for. So if you set up an alert on your account for event marketer
Your
in a
LinkedIn account,
city,
right?
excuse me, your LinkedIn account with event marketer in a certain city, you'll be getting these alerts, and you'll see that people are still actively hiring. As I said
Mhm.
before, nobody canceled my interviews on me, so people are still hiring. And what I got from a lot of people is it's business as usual. When this is over, we still have to sell, so we still need the people to do it.
I love that. And that was for me kind of the biggest takeaway of our first conversation, because I think you and I have had a bit of a different experience in
Mhm.
our interview processes so far, where I've seen a lot of things kind of screech to a halt. I've seen a lot
Yeah,
of hiring freezes, some layoffs. But I think it's important to keep in mind that like this is a temporary crisis. We don't know how
yes,
long it's going to last. And I think companies don't know how long it's going to last either. But you have to think of this, and I love the way that you framed this as an opportunity for event marketers, but it's also an
yeah,
opportunity for companies to take a step back, to think about how do we get creative and sort of process what's going on and get creative
yep,
given the new circumstances.
yeah,
Um, and for the companies that can really take this as an opportunity and think of this as a way to come out 10 times better at the end of this, that's a
yep.
really cool opportunity. And that's the kind of company that I want to work for.
Right, right. I mean, it's an opportunity for companies to hire some people that are desperately looking for jobs right now, but they can get creative. They
Mhm.
can take risks. You're going to see a
Mhm.
lot of people shine right now, and so that's really
Yeah,
the kind of what I want to say is take that risk, hire that person, and let them get creative with you.
I love that.
You still have your onboarding time, so it's going to take a couple weeks to onboard somebody. Plus, then you have to have all these marketing channels open up, and you have to get creative, and it's going to take time. So,
Yeah,
if you hire somebody right now, they might have their plans, 12 weeks down the road for those field marketing events. They might have all these ABM tactics set up. Different things that you're going to need to start being planned now. So it's an opportunity to hire those people, get these planning in place. When everything opens up again, they can shine.
I
So.
love that. Absolutely. I think that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah,
Um,
and I just want to say a couple people that I've seen are doing it really really good job right now, and
yeah.
maybe to look at is as I said, Sangram Vajre is doing
Hmm.
really well with his live events
At Terminus.
at Terminus. Salesforce has moved all of their events
Mhm.
online. So as you know, Own Backup is based off the Salesforce ecosystem, and Salesforce has moved everything
Mhm.
online, rapidly moved it online, and the leads are still coming in from that. Another company that's doing really well, Zoom. Zoom is providing the product
Obviously.
for free and some with trials. They're basically edging out their competition and setting themselves up for a really, really successful, post-pandemic workforce that, it's going to change. There's going to be a lot more work from. There's going to be a lot more Zoom meetings, I think, after this. So, they're doing it really
That's
well.
I think that that's such a good point too. I'm seeing so many companies right now um, doing things in a really charitable way, and I almost
Hmm.
think that like I was thinking about this earlier this week, where like doing the right thing right now and offering your services for free
Yeah.
is really, in so many cases, the new customer acquisition strategy.
Right.
Right? We were
Right.
talking to you and I were geeking out over Rise Science, which is
Yeah.
my favorite sleep
Yes.
app, Chicago-based company,
Yeah.
right? And you messaged me like, "Oh man, like never would have had an opportunity or like even the thought to try this.
Right.
But
I
now
mean,
that it's free, how cool is this?"
I'm figuring out my new schedule right now, and an
Mm,
important part of that is sleep. So I'm using
mhm.
that Rise app too, and my schedule has changed. I'm
Yeah,
inside a lot more during the day, and so I need to figure out these different tools and these different things to keep me productive and keep my scheduling still in place so that I can get as much done as possible,
yeah,
and still enjoy life a little bit. Um,
yeah. I think
so
that's actually brings me to another question. So, if I know you, Kevin Benson, pure
yeah,
extrovert, very similar to me, I made my boyfriend move in with me for this like isolation process
yeah,
because I just like can't be alone for that long. And especially right now where you're onboarding remotely and you're going to be leading events remotely and working from home a lot more. This is like, it might be a bit of a snooze fest question, but I'm curious to see your answer just off the cuff.
yeah.
How are you adapting? And I'd be curious to hear too, like how has Own Backup been thinking about like onboarding you remotely?
Yeah.
I'm not
So
even, I'm sure that's a process that's like evolving really quickly.
Yeah, so they are going to be onboarding me digitally. I mean, it is
Whew.
going to be me and a bunch of other people. They're not stopping their hiring processes right now. So there's going to be a lot of online onboarding, which I think is an opportunity for us to learn, these online skills and kind of like these online meetings that are going to make us more productive in the future anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So there's adaptation like that. I'm also, as I said, really scheduling out my time and figuring out how I can be most effective. So sleeping
Talk to me
correctly,
about that. Yeah.
waking up at certain times and doing work at certain times. So I'm really scheduling myself out. And also the last thing, eating healthy. So
Nice.
right now I'm cooking a lot of my own food and making sure I'm staying healthy. And I'm going to be equipped to be successful in the next coming weeks. So
Yeah. Isn't that such a great thing, right? Like,
yeah.
I think the silver lining for a lot of people right now is we're seeing like that there's a lot more connections happening, right? Like the
Hmm.
fact that we're all forced to stay in means that we're FaceTiming or Zooming people that we haven't caught up with in a long
Yeah.
time. We're cooking a lot
Yeah.
of our meals. Where it's an opportunity. I think for me, and I mean, I can't speak to your experience, but for me, it took me about a week of like, oh God, what's
Yeah.
happening, right?
Yeah.
Where like everything kind of fell to, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like my schedule was off, and then it really took it about after a week after that, I was like, all right, time to get it together. And it's a cool opportunity now, like now that I'm kind of in the swing of things to really be disciplined about that. But I think it takes some time to process. And I think once you have defined some of what your goals are, this is the time, right? Like
Yep.
when else are we going to have an opportunity like this to cook a lot and learn new things?
Yeah. So we'll just give a couple points that we talked about now that we're at the end here.
Sure.
Uh, People are hiring still.
Yes.
Don't get down on yourself. It's weird times. It's okay to be scared, but people are still hiring. So set up those job alerts and keep applying.
Mm,
Change up your interview style. Your interview style needs to be prescriptive now. You need to tell them how you're going to make a difference for them for the company that you're trying to join, and those tactics that you can use to make sure that they're successful also. Some of these tactics include webinars and online events, LinkedIn Live, LinkedIn events, direct mails, field marketing events such as dinners, and ABM tools such as Engagio and Drift. And then just look some of the people that are doing it successfully: Sangram, Vajre, Salesforce, Zoom, and kind of see how they're doing things. And I always say, copy whoever's doing it best.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that's kind of all I have, unless you have anything else, Meg. And I appreciate everybody joining. And we didn't have any questions come in, but if you send us over
I didn't see any.
questions, I'll answer them on a question by question basis and email you back.
Absolutely. Yes, I will. I didn't get any questions in the chat. You guys have about 20 seconds right now if you want to toss anything in there. But everybody that's on this call, thank you for joining us. I will be sending out a recording of this call. I know we had a few people that weren't able to join. I'll make sure to include Kevin's LinkedIn, and you guys can feel free to reach out to him. Feel free to reach out to me. Happy to keep this conversation going. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.